Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the pleasure of working on an oldie but a goodie. This one is a Shakespeare Wondereel. It was built in 1946. It was found by Scott in a West Coast flea market. It's a beautiful reel that he has asked me to service, and I thought I would make a video on this, so if you have one of these, you'll know how to service it. And well, if you come across one of these, you'll know how it's made and enjoy the reel. Well, it's a direct drive reel. There is no anti-reverse. These are what was traditionally called a knuckle buster reel, in that the reel turns forward and backwards. That enables you to cast the reel and to wind the reel. There is no star adjuster on this reel, or any kind of braking system like a drag system. And there's no anti-reverse as well. So it's a relatively simple reel, at least in that context of it. This reel does have an added collar inside here. That's to conserve line, so that you only need to spool, well, outwards, not spool a lot of line that would be traditionally wasted below. Now, this is the Wondereel DeLuxe by Shakespeare. It's a model GE. The GE is a code. Shakespeare used to code their reels, and the G would stand for 4, the E would stand for 6, which means the reel was manufactured in 1946, even though it has a model number up here, or a branding name called 1922. Well, we're going to start by removing the exterior pieces and parts on this reel. First thing I'm going to do is take off that cap that holds the handle on. The reel is very clean, it's in beautiful condition, and it has 4 small screws to it, which means we're going to need to use a micro screwdriver to open them up. A lot of reels were made by, well, ex-clockmakers and jewelers and the like, and I think that's how Shakespeare got his start. Shakespeare began making reels in the late 1800s, and well, the brand is still around today, even though it's undergone a couple of ownership changes. It's now with Pure Fishing. Back in the day, Shakespeare was located in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and well, they produced an awful lot of reels in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, similar to this. I took all of those 4 screws off the side plate. I wanted to make sure that they were all the same size. And once I take them off, I put those into a parts tray for safekeeping. This is my parts tray. You'll notice that the handle was in there as well. That should enable me to remove it. I don't believe these 2 screws need to be removed. So let's see if we can bring this off. Okay. Well, we've removed that piece, and this spool comes out next. And then those 2 screws are actually holding the main gear in place. So I'm just going to lay those 2 assemblies off to the side for a moment, and we'll service the main gear. We're going to remove the 2 screws here. And as we do this, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like the art of reel repair and service, if you like to learn about fishing reels, if you like to see how they're made, learn a little bit about the histories of the reels and the like. Well, then this is kind of the purpose of the channel. The channel is really designed to transfer what I know to you, so that you can do the servicing on the reels yourself. I'll leave those 2 screws right on my desk, and with those 2 screws removed, that whole assembly is going to be able to come out now, just like that. There's some dirt and the like in here. We're going to remove that. It's kind of all the grease. And then we should be able to pull up and out on the main gear, and just clean up the pieces that are on this side as well. With that shaft clear, well, all you have to do is re-grease. They're pretty simple reels. A little bit of grease onto the shaft where it's going to spin internally. Check the main gear. You want to make sure all the teeth are uniform. They're not chipped or cracked in any regard. Same thing underneath. You want to check that. And then we can go ahead and put fresh grease on to the gear. These reels were basically freshwater reels. Some of them almost all of them, level winds. And Shakespeare learned and actually developed the level wind feature by looking at how a manufacturing plant in Boston was loading on thread onto bobbins. And he took that same principle and made it work for fishing reels on how they line the reels onto the spool. All right, take that, put that back in. Oop. I put a little bit of grease onto the shaft. And we can bring all of that in. And we want to set the piece for the 2 screws on the side plate here. So that's how to go ahead and service the main gear. This is probably a fine example of a simple design. A big gear turns a little gear, turns a spool, that it enables you to collect the line. Now that principle holds almost across all fishing reels to this day. Doesn't matter if it's a spinning reel, bait casting reel, large trolling reel, or any of the above. Big gear turns a little gear, turns a spool. And the fixed spools, like a spinning reel, it turns the rotor, which is going to put the line onto the spool. Okay. Alrighty, so we've just screwed down the tip of my finger is what I just did there. Just mop up the greases that are hanging around. Now this is, I believe, a plastic cap. Sometimes these become very brittle, so you have to be careful with them as you're working on the reels. I'm just going to take that cap off there. I think it might be Bakelite. This has a bearing stud on it that appears to be seized. Okay, well that may or may not be part of this. I notice that the cavity is there, but this is not coming loose on this. So we're going to have to do our best here to just grease the outside and reinsert that into the carrier. Now it's probably part of the spool because it turns nice and free and easy. Also going to get some grease onto the 2 drives here, the first one for the spool, the second one for the level wind. And we can put our carrier back on. You need to line that up so that the screw holes match and that you have the indentations right. This is a good place to tell you if you're not confident about what you're doing as you're taking the reel apart, take pictures. Those pictures will help you to identify the sequence that these have gone in on. Well, everything's greased up. We can put this back together. Just be careful with that Bakelite side there. And we can go into our parts tray and get those 4 pieces. While I'm doing that, I want to encourage you to ask questions. If you do have a question, please leave it in the comment section. That will be the best way for me to give you an answer. I know there's a business card that follows these videos and it has a phone number on it. And you're welcome to call that phone number, but understand that when I'm doing the videos, when I'm servicing reels, when I'm working on the projects, I can't answer the phone, so it may be a delay. Sometimes that delay is a day or 2 in terms of getting back to you to answer a question that you leave by voice message. If you leave the question in the comments section almost every morning, I do try to answer those on YouTube before I start the work of the day. Okay, just as I was saying interruptions, I was interrupted, but I did manage to put the 4 additional screws back on the case, so we'll load the handle at this point. then put that nut case back on. And then the only thing left to do here is to service the pawl and the line guide. So the line guide and pawl are held in by a little clip on the back here with a small screw. Be careful as you take it in and take it out. That's the screw, and then there's a plate now that screw is holding in. And then there's a pawl underneath here. You want to remove the pawl, check to make sure that the points are equal. You want to make sure that they're clean on the shoulders. And then you can put a drop of oil inside the pawl carrier and on the worm gear before replacing the pawl in that hole. If you have big hands like I do, well, you may want to use a little pliers to reseat that. Turn it to make sure that you've got it in the groove, and go get the cap back. Center the cap to the carrier, and put a little bit of grease onto this screwdriver tip so that I can try and hold that screw while we started to get it back into that carrier there. Success. Alright, well, once we tighten this up, the only thing left really is just to give it a test. So we've taken the reel apart completely. We've shown you how to remove that main gear, which is held on by 2 screws on the outside for a bridge. We talked a little bit about the Bakelite kind of spacer in here, showed you how the line guide works, explained a little bit about the collar here, which is taking up space so that you don't have to put additional line on, and showed you how to complete the servicing of the reel with the line guide. Let's give it a little try now. Well, it's a little tight now, and it's tight because we put the grease on that cap, so you just need to back off your spool adjuster just a little bit. And, well, there you go. Very nice example of a fine reel made in 1946. It's the Shakespeare Wondereel DeLuxe, and it's a very nice flea market find that Scott has. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Before we leave, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel for everything they do and their dedication to task. And to everyone, please stay safe, stay well, stay watching. Have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.